Welcome back to Living Local. Book clubs are a great way to dive deeper into literature, engage with other readers, and gain new insight on your favorite stories and authors. A local podcast provides a book club experience in a virtual form, hosted by a trio of Stephen King fans. Joining us in the studio today, we have Josh Kahn. He is the host of Derry Public Radio. Josh, it's so great to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
He has the best energy. I'm like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm living the dream. I always love that response. So we're pumped to have you here, Josh. So first of all, what is Derry Public Radio and how did it get started?
Derry Public Radio is a bi-weekly Stephen King book club podcast hosted by C.M. Alexander, Benjamin Graham, and myself. It was created back in 2017. Ben Graham, who I went to college with, came to me with this idea. He wanted to do a podcast really as an excuse just to reread all of Stephen King's books. And I'd done a few local films with C.M. Alexander, and I know she has this amazing collection of signed edition, first edition, autographed, all these Stephen King books that are just amazing. So I was like, let's all come together, let's build this show. And we sat down and we said, what do we love more than just reading the Stephen King books? It's getting into the deep discussion with other constant readers about the things that are just below the surface level. And so we decided, let's do a book club style so our audience can read along and join in our discussion with us.
Oh, that is so fantastic, Josh. Now, I love podcasts. I'm a huge consumer of them, and they really have taken off over the recent years, and you can find, you know, topics just about on anything. When you go to iTunes or wherever you find your podcast. Now, of all things, why Stephen King, that specific author?
Sure, well, I mean, he's our favorite author, which is the easy answer. But the great thing about Stephen King, he's a prolific writer. He's influenced pop culture in so many ways. If you've never read a Stephen King book, you have an idea of what a Stephen King book is. And I think that's great. You think, some people think of the scary things, like Pennywise the Clown from It. But his stories are more than that. You take Pet Sematary, you think about things coming back from the dead. That story is also about the weight of grief. Misery, you think of Annie Wilkes with the sledgehammer. That story also is deeply rooted in addiction. And so there's all these other layers you can dig into, and I think that's just, it's fantastic to dive into those things.
You know, Josh, I've always been a Stephen King fan. Since I was a teenager, I've always loved his stuff, and I've loved watching the movies after reading some of the books, which has been a really fun thing. And I think that I never even thought of some of those themes that you were saying, but now they make a lot of sense to me, and now I can see that there's a lot of value that your podcast brings for folks who enjoy his work, but maybe want a deeper discussion on those underlying themes and concepts that are playing out in his books. I love that. Now, what makes your show unique? Like, walk us through the format and what people can expect.
The first thing you'll notice when you listen to us, we adopted the name Derry Public Radio because at the top of our shows, we give you a fictional news report from the basement of the Derry Civic Center. It's Derry Public Radio bringing you a local news story, and we treat whatever book we're covering, we create this news story that's in reference to what story we're reading. When we did Carrie, which was our very first series, the intro was about Ewing High having its very first prom in over 80 years. All local fire departments have been notified. And so like those are like a really fun way to set the tone. You'll also notice our audio quality. C.M. Alexander is our sound engineer. She spends hours after we've been recording to make sure we sound as good as any podcast you'll ever listen to. And we take a lot of pride in that. And our camaraderie is something we get a lot of feedback about too. We run the gamut of comfortably familiar to frighteningly fanatic with our King knowledge. So we have different perspectives that come from all over the place, and it makes our conversations feel authentic and natural, and I think people have really responded to that energy. Yeah,
and speaking of that response, what kind of feedback have you gotten from listeners so far?
It's been mind-blowing. We had listeners coming in from all over the world. We get emails from listeners in Canada, Australia, Ireland, all over the country. It's so great to have people reach out to us and say, this is the Stephen King podcast I've been looking for. I'm the only person in my life that reads it. None of my friends or family like it. So hearing you guys talk about it, I'm a part of conversations I always wish I could have. And they read along with us. At the top of our shows, we say, we're reading this chapter to this chapter, so you can join us. And they not only send us messages about how much they enjoy the show, but they send us their thoughts.
Oh.
They chime in like, hey, you guys mentioned this. I thought it was this.
Yeah.
Or you missed this thing. So we get to take not only this amazing conversation we're having around the table on air, we get to take that off air and have that one-on-one with all of our fans. And it's just so rewarding.
Wow, it's so incredible how you are connecting with people from all over the world on this one topic. And that's the great thing about books and authors is that they can really bring people together with this common interest there. So what are some of the highlights so far that really stick out to you?
Well, we've been to a couple conventions. We did our very first live episode on the show floor of Midwest Monster Fest last September here in the Quad Cities. That was great. We got a chance to work with Cinemark and the $1 Producer Project to do a premiere party for Pet Sematary, the remake that came out.
Oh, cool.
And got to interview people after the movie in the lobby and everything. But I think to date, the biggest, the mind-blowing thing that's happened to us, when COVID hit, we were about ready to start a new series of books. We decided we would do social distancing, we'd record remotely, and take a break from the books. So we covered Kingdom Hospital, which was a series he did that was about 13 episodes on ABC, and it starred Andrew McCarthy. And we reached out to him during our recording, and he was like, sure, I'll come talk to you guys about it.
Oh my gosh!
So he Zoomed us one afternoon, he gave us an afternoon of his time to talk about not just Kingdom Hospital, but his acting career and writing and just life in COVID. And it was just such a mind-blowing experience. He was so great to just hang out with and chat with.
Wow, what a cool opportunity there, Josh. So how can people support the show?
The easiest way is to listen. Listen to the show. Rate us and review us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you listen to podcasts. The ratings and reviews always help boost where people can find us. You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Derry Public Radio. For $5 a month, you can get, we'll send you a bookmark with our logo on it. We will give you access to a monthly subscriber show called The Club, which is like a storytelling podcast, and so many other rewards the more you pay up. You can also find us on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook. Shoot us a message after you listen to a show. Talk to us. We love that engagement, and it makes everything we go through so worth it.
Oh, cool. What an awesome podcast. and Josh, again, love your energy and enthusiasm. Just could not love it more. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, you guys, if you'd like some more information, you can find Derry Public Radio wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll also have those details posted on ourquadcities.com.